Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night here from ARA Super Formula Lights on Apex Racing TV. Tonight, we head to Twin Ring Motegi, or Mobility Resort Motegi in Japan. I'm Adam Thompson. Along with me is Ron Mons. And Ron, I think tonight we may see a really strong performance and a good race coming up here, especially with the championship fight we have coming.
Oh, we certainly will. After this, it's going to be only one more race meeting left to go coming up next Thursday here on Apex Racing TV. And it's been a very hard-fought season thus far. 6 rounds on the board, only 2 left to go. And it has been hard-fought with a whole lot of twists and turns. And we've got a pretty big one as of late. If I hearken the viewers' minds back to the Hungaroring round a couple of weeks ago, it was a qualifying ban that Tobias Olsen, the championship leader, was meant to serve. He didn't serve it, and so as a result, for the last round of the season, just 1 week ago, he was banned for a race, and really you can make that 2 races. He did not turn a single lap at Mugello just 1 week ago, and that has blown the championship complexion absolutely wide open. A championship contender, a guy who only a few weeks ago, we had the championship crown pretty much on his head pretty much. We just put it on his head, knowing that he was pretty much untouchable in this series, but because of that penalty, because of the hole that he himself has put himself under, it's just entirely wide open. I think we'll take a look at the pro points in a little bit, but one last point on Tobias Olsen, the at 1 point championship leader. He's now serving that qualifying ban for this race meeting here at Motegi, and if he doesn't serve it, that's game over for him. He would pick up another race ban and maybe even get banned from the series as a whole. So I think, Adam, I'll pass it off to you to take a look at the championship point standings with just 2 more race meetings left to go. It is tight in all 3 classes.
Yes, let's take a look at the pro standings. Nicholas Rasmussen, after a dominating performance for the man, and then George Snasnoff, currently 551 points in second. Leonard Schneibel, Leonard Schneibel, 548 points as well, and Tobias Olsen has fallen down to 4th with 519 points. He's 41 points behind the championship leader. And then, of course, rounding out the top 5, Kevin Zemstra of Ice Cold Racing, 504 points. We could consider him pretty much out of the championship unless some magical thing happens and the top 4 get taken out. Let's take a look at the AM standings here, Ron, and I'll let you take this one away.
Alrighty, sounds good. The AMs have been incredibly entertaining thus far, but in the past few rounds, Mark Swan has started to pull away with that 491 points on the board compared to No Juice Jedvalis at 452. Then you've got the Russian Yuri Grigorenko at 436. You gotta keep an eye on the Russian, mainly because that Dudarev Motorsports team that he's driving for is involved in the team championship fight. They have Yannick Pletcher and Jeff Lutz rounding out the top 5 in the AM category. And I think, Josh, we could possibly take a look at the Teams Championship, which has been equally entertaining, if not even more entertaining, and this has been all kinds of screwed up, considering the troubles that Ice Cold Racing have found themselves in as of late. A couple of weeks ago, as we were starting to put that championship crown on Tobias Olsen as a driver, we were starting to put the Team Championship crown on Ice Cold Racing as a whole. We had already ordered them, but ever since then, things have gone desperately wrong for them. Their rivals, Alcantech NHR by BrainCrow AI, currently 1,252 points on the board. They have a pretty decent gap between themselves and Dudarev Motorsports in second, Ice Cold Racing rounding out the top 3 in the Team Championship. At this point in time, those 3 are the ones we need to keep our eyes on when it comes to that Team Championship, with Alcantech NHR having a very big advantage. What's that? About 70 points, 69 points, nice, in front of the Dudarev Motorsports team in P2. But the championship complexion as a whole in this series has just been completely turned on its head, and I think we're going to expect even more twists and turns in this race tonight.
Yes, we are. Of course, again, we are at Twin Ring Motegi, or Mobility Resort Motegi. If you are familiar with the Gran Turismo games, you actually know what this track is, especially the oval part, that the oval circuit in Gran Turismo 3 and 4, also in other games as well. It's a great racetrack on the oval side, and of course, with the way that this track works, is that there's also a road course, which is where we are racing tonight. 2.4 kilometers, 1.5 miles. That's the oval, excuse me, but 4.8 kilometers, 2.9 mile road course. And this actually cuts in and out of the oval here, as now we are watching Thomas Hedlund. If we can actually ride on board with him, we could show you this awesome racetrack that we get to be at tonight as he goes through turn number 1 here. Again, it's just it kind of has that oval feel, except instead of turning left, you're turning right, and then all the way down this long stretch of road down into turn 2. You're gonna have to take a really wide angle turn. It's a double apex turn through 2 and 3. And again, Thomas Headley doing a good job keeping the car pointed forward here as he's going almost 220 kilometers per hour down this really long straight into corner number 4, and this is where you exit the oval. So now we're outside of the oval track into turns 5 and 6, and again, it's a kind of a double apex situation through 5 and 6, so watch out for some potential carnage to happen through here, through 7 and 8. Also is a kind of a chicane, a high speed chicane a little bit, and then down into turn number 9, a very sharp left-hander. As you can see, Thomas Hedlund really struggling on the corner exit there. Now down a semi-medium long straight, you almost get about 200 kilometers per hour, and you'll get into turn 10. Now here's the longest straight of the circuit. This is between 10 and 11, and this is where we could see some major slipstream passes as they fall down into turn 11 before they turn back to go inside the infield of the oval. And there's the bridge right there where the oval is, and they go right back into the infield. And here's turns 12, 13, and 14, and out of turn 14. And Thomas Hedlund completes the lap here for us. Thank you very much to Thomas for that. And he's also putting up a qualifying time of 1:42.345, which puts him into the 9th spot. Ron, this is a circuit like no other in the world, to not only have an oval circuit, but you also have a road course that the road course goes in and out of, unlike Daytona, where the major difficult part of the Daytona road course is the infield, and then obviously you go out on the oval part for majority of it.
The big thing as well with this track is the fact that the road course is entirely disconnected from the oval. It's not a roval, it's just, I mean, they call it Twin Ring Motegi, well, used to call it Twin Ring Motegi for a very good reason. Sadly, the Japanese earthquakes that hit the country back in 2011 destroyed the oval circuit and actually led to IndyCar racing on this exact road course layout back in 2011. Of course, many will probably remember the great stories that were made with IndyCars running on the oval here at Twin Ring Motegi, which has sadly just been entirely discontinued after the earthquake really destroyed the surface. But here with this Grand Prix course, holds some pretty good racing year in and year out, including some MotoGP races as well. It is a fantastic drive, and you mentioned this in the track guide. Thank you very much, Adam, for that. Heading into turn number 11, that's going to be a good overtaking opportunity. However, I have a bad feeling about that towards the beginning of these races, because that is a tough corner to try and get right. Coming out of turn number 10, you're really happy just to get on the gas, because really, after the start-finish straightaway and the small little flat-out blast between turns 4 and 5, there's no real flat-out section on this track. These drivers are usually trying to battle something, so going down that back straightaway, they usually get a little bit of hay fever, so to speak, heading into turn number 11. Plus, considering that that corner is downhill, it can create a whole lot of challenge for these drivers to try and get woed up, especially if they're going for a really ballsy move. But with 3 minutes left to go in this qualifying session, I think we should probably talk about the order. And look at that, Mark Swan, the Dutchman, at a 141.544. That is a very good lap time from him, and it goes to prove the point that we mentioned when we were taking a look at the AM standings earlier on in this broadcast. Mark Swan has kicked on the afterburner so far this season, and the fact he's in front of Nicholas Rasmussen, a driver involved in that Pro Championship fight, really speaks volumes about how quick Swan has been so far.
Yes, Mark Swan has had some great qualifying results, but the race results haven't shown up. And he really needs to find a way to get those results a little bit better, especially with the position that he's in. He has great pace over one lap, but when it comes to a 25-minute race and a 30-minute race, he has slid back in those. A little bit about our championship runner-up currently, George Snasnoff. He is somebody I would keep an eye on. He's currently sitting 4th fastest, but he's on a lap right now. This is somebody I think could play spoilers for Nicholas Rasmussen, and we got to make sure we keep our eyes throughout the day on him and see where he can end up. Leonard Schneibel as well. He is in the championship fight still, and he is looking to get another good result. He has 2 wins on the season, and due to his teammate Nicholas Rasmussen's pace and those two working together quite well, they've been able to turn their season around with the meltdown of Ice Cold Racing in the last 4 weeks. Ice Cold Racing 4 weeks ago was leading the championship. They were pretty much in control and completely melted down in the last 4 weeks, and now they have to try and fight back. It's going to be a tough road again for Tobias. Thing happens.
And I think this qualifying session is coming to a close in just a couple of moments' time. Swan is still at the front at that 141.544. Some pro drivers starting to put in some qualifying times as well. It should be noted here in these Apex Run series, the first 10 minutes of the qualifying session, which we cannot broadcast here on Apex Racing TV, are mainly reserved for the AM drivers. However, once we tick over that mark, the AMs have to come back to the pits, and the pros are allowed out on the track, which, considering for most race meetings, especially towards the early part of the season when we had a bit more cars, usually made a bit more sense. But here, considering we're coming towards the end of the season and have, I believe, 13 or 14 cars, however, it doesn't have as much weight to it as it once did. But as the checkered flag is going to come out in this qualifying session, all the cars are going to get yoinked back to pit lane. It is going to be an AM driver starting this race from the pole. Adam, that was an interesting qualifying session leading into some pretty exciting racing. I'll let you take us through the starting grid.
Thank you very much, Ron. And let's take a look at that grid. Mark Swan on the pole here in the 212 in the ADX Racing Esports car. Nicholas Rasmussen outside of row number 1 in the 171, only 0.086 off of Mark Swan. Leonard Schneibels will start third on the in row number 2. Outside of him, it's the 206 of Fabio Grassetto. Row number 3, George Snasnuoff, currently running second in the Pro Championship. And next to him, no juice, Gedvelez in the 267. Row 4, Yuri Grigorenko, the Russian, in the 261. And outside of him, the 210 of Andre Duna. Row number 5, the 177 from Ice Cold Racing 2, Thomas Hedlund, and on his outside, Jeff Lutz in the 213. Row number 6, Pierre-Francois Palouse in the 392, the Mercury Setup Shop 992. And outside of him, the Swede from, in the privateer class, we should say, the privateer team, Leonard Bognar. And the final starter serving his qualifying ban in the 4th spot in the Pro Championship, the 199 from Ice Cold Racing, Tobias Olsen. So 13 drivers starting here tonight, and of course a championship still up for grabs here. And I think we're going to be in for an exciting show. Still some drivers needing to grid up here, and we'll get the racing underway. They got about 30 seconds until they need to be on the grid here, and we'll see those lights slowly start to come on here in just a moment. Again, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button here on ARTV, and we would appreciate that. Hitting that subscribe button lets us know you enjoy the content here at Apex Racing TV. So, Ron, any predictions?
I don't think turn 1 is going to be the source of chaos. I feel like turn number 11 will gonna be the fun racing action we usually expect here from the ARA Super Formula Light Series 2 races, and they're both gonna be fun.
Here we go. 5 lights will turn on, and 5 lights will go out, and Tobias Olsen has gone back into the pits here before the lights go out, but a good start there by Mark Swan. He's gonna have to defend hard from Nicholas Rasmussen into turn 1. Swan does get in front of him, almost chops the nose off of Nicholas Rasmussen into turn 1, but here comes the rest of the field now, side by side, further back. I can't quite tell who it is, but they're going to be barreling down into turn number 2. They're going to split out. That's Yuri Grigorenko. He goes down the inside, trying to go side by side here with Fabio Grassetto here as they go down to turn number 4 here, and this is again going to be very interesting how the drivers navigate this first lap. Now you can see Nicholas Rasmussen, Leonard Schneibel teammates 2 and 3. Bogner has slid off the track, and we'll hopefully see if he rejoins here, but we'll have to continue on with this battle for the race lead as Mark Swan leading here by just 0.4 of a second here in the opening lap. Farther back, there is Thomas Hedlund. He's trying to make up ground as he is the sole member of Ice Cold Racing 2, trying to make up some spots. Tobias Olsen has come out of the pits as well, and he has gained a spot off of Leonard Bognar. Now coming down into turn... Are we at the end of the lap? Yes, we are. We are completed with lap number 1 here with Mark Swan, Nicholas Rasmussen, Leonard Schneibel, Fabio Grassetto, and George Snasnuoff.
Actually, that was heading through turn number 10. The hairpin about to head through 11 now. They're very close to completing the lap as you see them about to re-enter the infield of the oval section. So a lot of hard racing on that first lap as Andre Duna is starting to drop back a little bit, now down to 11th. Make that 12th with Tobias Olsen making up another position. Olsen started this race from the pits, and that's a crash a little bit farther in the back with Thomas Hedlund spinning out of the final corner and hitting that inside wall. That, I think, is going to be game, set, match for Hedlund. Yes, it is. The melting of Ice Cold Racing continues as the only other Ice Cold Racing car in this field besides Tobias Olsen has now retired from the race as Pierre-Francois Paulus is actually spun heading through turns number 1 and 2. He gets back rolling, albeit down in 12th, well far off the back of Leonard Bognar. And we saw on lap 1 a civil war between George Sasanoff and Yuri Grigorenko. Hopefully the Dudarev Motorsports people hoping that they don't fall the same way as Ice Cold Racing have in the dying stages of this season. But I think we have a whole lot of replays to take a look at, Adam, of the drama that's happened thus far.
Let's take a look at Leonard Bognar's little slip up here. Here they come, and Bognar in the green and kind of yellowish. Ooh, almost went into the back of somebody and had to make an aggressive move just to try and avoid it and into the wall. I don't think he had too much damage. Now let's take a look at Andre Duna and see what has happened to them in the Domino Esports car. Oh, just loses the rear end, goes for a spin. Luckily, other drivers were able to avoid him. And now, do we have a replay of Yes, I was going to say we're going to have one for Hedlund as well, as he is out of this one. Let's take a look at what happened to Thomas Hedlund. Again, high-speed corner, it's a double apex kind of turn, and you got to get the car slowed down, and he just went off in the grass too wide and backs himself into the wall, and he decides his race is over. So that is what's happened on the opening lap here, Ron, and Tobias Olsen, who started in the pits, is now up 5 spots and moves himself into 8th.
At this point in time, Tobias Olsen is really throwing all caution to the wind with that race ban at Mugello last time out. He is on the back foot massively, currently up 5 spots from where he started in this race. And a good thing to keep in mind with this 2-race format that we have here from the Apex Racing Academy Super Formula Light Series is that your finishing position in this 25-minute long sprint race is going to be your starting position in the 30-minute feature later on this broadcast. So Olsen doing himself a whole lot of favors, currently up to 8th. However, after he got that moved on Jeff Lutz heading into turn number 1 not terribly long ago, he is now has a big challenge in front of him trying to catch up to No Juice Jedvalis running in 7th. It's about 3.5 seconds separating those two cars. Actually make that about 2.5 seconds. You know, I was great in math as a kid, but that's still a pretty significant gap for him to try and close up around this track. But again, considering the amount of mistakes that we've seen some drivers have so far in this race, I wouldn't say that 2.5-second gap is insurmountable at all.
No, it is not. Let's look at some lap times here. Fabio Grosseto, fastest lap time of 1:42.7. That was his last lap, so he is currently the quickest out there on track. But Mark Swan currently leading the field from Nicholas Rasmussen, the only AM driver who is in the top 3. Again, we should remind people the top 6 get inverted. So right now, Yuri Grigorenko looking at starting on the pole position. Now George Snasnowov gets that fastest lap with a 1:42.023. And he is making up some ground. He hasn't made up any positions, but he's going to start looking here in just a moment. If we could go ahead and head to George Snasnowov, as he is in a tight battle as well in this championship. You can see him further back. He's in the 5th spot. He's in that white car. Just a little bit further back in the Durarop Motorsports car, and he has to just try and find a way to get around Fabio Grosseto, Leonard Schneibel, and Nicholas Rasmussen to get a chance at maybe a race win here. But he also will be starting 2nd if he remains in this spot, which will be a front row starting position in the 30-minute feature later on. Looking through as well.
Sorry to step on your toes there, Adam.
Yeah, no problem. Nicholas Rasmussen, only 0.3 back, has that slipstream, and he is getting closer, it looks like here, to Mark Swan. Maintain this race lead. Now you're starting to see a gap form between Nicholas Rasmussen and Leonard Schneibel. That gap about 1.1 seconds. And kind of going back and forth a little bit, but Nicholas Rasmussen right on the back bumper of Mark Swanron.
Oh, it is barely any air separating these two drivers. Rasmussen has a point to prove. He is racing for the championship at season's end, and as much as a P2 result would be good for him, he's getting flashbacks to the opening race at Mugello just 1 week ago, where those two finished 1 and 2 respectively. Mark Swan took the victory with Rasmussen in tow. I don't think Rasmussen wants a repeat of that, doubly so considering the pressure he's going to be feeling from the cars behind. He's got his teammate Leonard Schneibel right behind in P3, his AM teammate Fabio Grosseto in P4, but you've got this man George Sazonov, another driver involved in that pro championship fight. He's right behind in 5th, and I think he is going to try and pounce if there's any sort of opportunity, as Rasmussen looking to pounce that opportunity, getting a move done nearly on Swan, heading into the corner, and Swan, no, that's Rasmussen spinning around, coming out of turn number 5. Nicholas Rasmussen tried to take a bite out of Swan's lead and take a bite out of his chances, but Rasmussen spins around, and that puts him behind Olsen as well. Some drama in the championship fight as Nicholas Rasmussen with a huge mistake and a spin coming out of turn 5.
Tobias Olsen's going to be loving this, because this is exactly what he needs to have happen as they continue on here. Again, Tobias Olsen now moving himself into 7th, 6 spots up here. So let's keep an eye on him as he continues his charge forward here. But that's going to put Leonard Schneibel into the second spot, Fabio Grosseto third, and in the sixth spot, and of course the final invert spot, Najus Gedvelez now looking at starting on the pole here in the 30-minute feature race. Again, that's going to be after this 25-minute race. And let's take a look one more time at what happened to Rasmussen. He's trying to make a move around the outside, and he just goes way wide, loses the rear end way before that, it looks like. And he's just getting that rear end to slide, has to get off the track safely, and woohoo, almost takes out Tobias Olsen with him.
Yeah, that was probably a couple feet away from an absolute disaster involving two of our championship contenders here from this series. It's still a disaster from Tobias Olsen, though. Not Tobias Olsen. It's maybe a blessing for Tobias Olsen, a curse for Nicholas Rasmussen with that spin coming out of turn number 5, and really just heading into that corner and trying to get that move done. You could tell that car was a little bit sideways by the time he hit the apex, so really Rasmussen going for that move. I mean, you can't necessarily blame him for trying to get that move done, feeling all the pressure behind and seeing an opportunity to pounce. It just didn't work out well for him, and now he's on the back foot massively. 12 seconds off of the leader, Swan, when he was very briefly in the lead not terribly long ago. But that gap between himself and Tobias Olsen is a thing that we need to keep in mind. And in reference to Olsen, that gap between himself and Gedvelis has cratered. You can see those two covered by about, I would say probably about 8 car lengths heading into turn number 10 hairpin. It's about 0.8 of a second separating these two cars currently, and this makes a huge difference when it comes to the 30-minute feature race we have later on today. Because if you're in P7, you're going to be starting that race in P7. If you finish this race in P6, you're going to be starting the feature from the pole. So Olsen, at this point, he is going to try and do anything in his power to get that move done on Gedvelis to move his way up into P6. I don't think he's trying to chase Grigorenko. I think he wants that reverse grid pole, and that is going to be the main thing he has his sights set on.
As they just come through the front straight now, you can see Tobias Olsen trying to use much of that slipstream. Doesn't get much closer as they go through turns 1 and 2. And of course, this is going to be something for Tobias Olsen. He needs this to happen. He needs to start on the pole to really turn his season around, to have a chance next week at a title here at the ARA Super Formula Light Series. And for Najus Gedvelez, he is also in the AM Championship, so he is also fighting for his spot, as well as that championship slowly in the amateur category has kind of spread out a little bit as we are in the penultimate race here this weekend. But what matters right now is that basically we're in a 25-minute race. We got about less than 15 minutes left to go, and Najus Gedvelez, he has one of the top drivers in the series right. Go. He is very, very, very quick.
Oh, he is. At this track, Adam, is the fact that with so many corners at all, just looking through the track map, there's 14 corners in all around this track, and really every single one of them has their challenges. Really, turn number 12 and 13 towards the end of the lap are the only ones that are somewhat identical to any other corner on this entire track here at Motegi. And that is part of the reason why there's a little bit of a pace disparity between a lot of the drivers in this field. Pretty spread out currently, with the top 10 separated by 15 seconds, with Jeff Lutz holding on to that final top 10 spot. But right now, our attention is switching to this Swan, Schneibel, and Grosseto fight. The front three are covered by only a half a second, 12 and a half minutes in to this 25-minute race. Now the halfway mark right now, and Schneibel may be trying to take the lead from Swan. You can see Swan with some defensive maneuvers heading into the hairpin of turn 5, so I think Swan is really starting to feel the pressure from the Alcantech NHR driver right behind.
The battle for the race lead is on, and of course Grosseto right behind there. Here comes Schneibel. He's down the inside. He can't quite make the move happen as they go through turn number 7 and 8. This is going to be difficult here, trying to make the move around the outside. Leonard Schneibel, he's up only one spot. If he makes the move, that would be huge for the Alcantech NHR by Brain Crow AI team as they are fighting in a team's championship as well as a driver's championship. Grosseto, he is watching this. He is trying to stick in this slipstream. Here they come down the longest straight of the track into turn 11. Here goes Leonard Schneibel. He shoots it to the outside. They're almost side by side into turn 11. Mark Swan, he's not going to give up the place easily. They're still side by side as they re-enter the infield of the oval. Now Leonard Schneibel, he has a full car length out in front through turn 12. And Leonard Schneibel, he takes the lead here with just about almost 10 minutes, I would say, 12 minutes left in this one.
Oh, and it's still not over yet. You can see Swan trying to sweep around the outside, hang through turn number 1 and 2, and look at Fabio Grosseto, the Italian AM driver, trying to take not only P2 in this race overall, but the victory in AM. That was a very aggressive move. If Grosseto made that stick, that would have been bold moves from both of the Alcantech drivers. But talking about Schneibel, getting it done around the outside, hang through turn number 12, of course, snuck that wheel down the inside, hang through turn number 11. That's what got him side by side, but then just sweeping around it, hang through turn number 12 and 13, which is tricky enough single file, let alone side by side. Schneibel definitely deserves a star award for that, and you can see riding on board with him, pulling off the switcheroo there. You can see nearly making contact with Swan, and actually no, it was, my apologies, it was Schneibel on that inside line, hang through turns number 12 and 13, got that move done. But all credit to Swan as well for sticking with him as long as he could. And look at Grosseto, he had a fantastic view of this, the Alcantech NHR by Nyman Racing driver, up one spot from where he started in this race. You can see him trying to get that move done on Swan, very briefly at his front nose cone in front of Swan's, however just wasn't able to get a good enough exit coming out of turn number 1 and 2 to get the move done that time around. He's still very close with about 3/10 separating those two, and look at that, that's the move we were expecting for a while, but the one that's going to make a whole lot of difference. Tobias Olsen finally gets past No Juice Jedvalis to move his way up into P6, which may not seem like too much on paper, but come about 15 minutes time from now, that will be the provisional pole for the feature race. And here is the replay of how Olsen was able to get it done and now make his way up 7 spots from where he started in this race with a nice move down the inside heading into the turn number 10 chicane.
There you go. Tobias Olsen now up 7 spots. He is looking to get the Hard Charger Award here today. And now he is on the pole position for the 30-minute feature race coming up in just less than 10 minutes from now as we complete this one. Again, 10 minutes left in this one. And Mark Swan was a race leader. Leonard Schneibel took it away from him. And he is going to try and drive away. But further back, look at this 3-car gaggle of cars with Fabio Grosseto, our second-place runner George Sazowov in the Pro Championship, and Yuri Grigorenko. Those three battling it out here. Again, not much up for grabs at this point of the evening, but for a lot of these drivers, they want to have a good starting spot in the feature. For Yuri Grigorenko, he is currently sitting 5th, and he will be starting outside of pole here in the 30-minute race if this result holds. And where are we at? We're going into turn number 10 now. And this, again, we're seeing this long straight really come into play here. And let's ride on board with Grigorenko here, and we can see what kind of speeds he gets up to. He's already over 200 kilometers per hour, not even halfway down the straight. 235 kilometers per hour before having to break into turn 11. And that is insane speeds on a circuit like this in these Super Formula cars, Super Formula lights, they go. And you can see in the background there the oval circuit as we are driving through the infield here of Twin Ring Motegi. Now the gap starting to slowly close between 2nd and 3rd. Mark Swan almost backing into the clutches of Fabio Grosseto. Only half a second separating the two here as we approach 18 minutes of this 25-minute race.
That was insane, riding on board with Grigorenko heading into turn number 11. For those who like the Freedom units, that was 146 miles an hour heading into turn number 11. These drivers are absolutely hauling the mail at the end of that straightaway, and that's part of the reason why we've seen some drivers go for some moves like that heading into that corner. We've seen it before in this race, and we'll definitely see it again between now and the checkered flag, especially considering the frickin' hornet's nest that we have at the north end of the field. Schneibel, Swan, Grassetto, Sazonov, and Grigorenko covered by barely any air. We've got them all in one camera shot, as you can see now, looking from the helicopter view from Schneibel. He is starting to pull away 0.8 of a second between himself and Swan, which may not seem like too much, and really it isn't, but that is the biggest gap in that front 5 pack right now, so he is definitely savoring that. But Swan is going to feel that pressure from Grassetto in the not too distant future. You can see that whole field heading into turn number 11 back under 1 and 2 on the oval before they go back into the infield through the final few corners on this wonderful lap at Twin Ring Motegi. I'll keep calling it Twin Ring Motegi because was it Mobility Resort Motegi? Just doesn't have the same ring as Twin Ring Motegi, and I got used to playing on Forza Motorsports 4 as a very young lad. I got used to the name Twin Ring Motegi. But regardless of what you want to call this track, it's putting on some pretty good racing now from this race, and not a whole lot of time left to go either, Adam. Currently 19 minutes into this 25-minute long race. So we're probably looking at about 4 laps to go as Swan has a moment heading through turns number 3 and 4. Yeah, you can see him spun around. And look at that, Grassetto and Swan nearly coming to blows. And look at Tobias Olsen. He's going to move his way up into 4th, which is good for this race, but not really good for the next one.
No, it is not. He'll be starting 3rd in the feature this way, but something has happened to Mark Swan. We'll have to find a replay of exactly what happened to our second place runner here. We'll see if this is the right replay here. And yep, there it is. He just loses the rear end going into that second apex. And let's see. Oh man. Oh, that was so close.
Yeah, I think that was some synchronized spinning there. It wasn't really like but I think Grassetto spun just trying to avoid him. Yeah, you can see, there's actually contact between himself and I believe that was George Sazonov that actually made a little bit of contact. Must be said, there's probably a little bit of netcode involved, at least from my perspective. It looked like it was a couple of feet separating those two cars, but you can see Grassetto spinning in sympathy, and you can see his car get jolted up in the air with the contact between himself and Sazonov, and Mark Swan nearly coming in to T-bone him. And look at Tobias Olsen. That was a slick move to get by the both of them, getting that 2-for-1 deal coming out of turn number 4. Of course, he very, very came close to running into both of them with that maneuver. He was on the edge of control and grip after all of that. And speaking of after all of that, now it's No Juice Gedvil is holding on to that P6 spot, which is very important for this upcoming race. But riding on board with Tobias Olsen and his perspective through this incident, you can see the smoke and the two cars paying. Oh boy, and you can see Olsen. Okay. From the outboard shot, it looked a bit sketchier than it really did from the onboard. It was still sketchy, though. He was just pushing it to the absolute limit. At this point, considering the hole he finds himself in, though, Tobias Olsen, he could not afford to have lifted there.
No, he could not have, and smart driving by Tobias Olsen to find the gap and just shoot for it, and he got out of it cleanly, as we now see Gedvil as he went a little bit wide, and right now he is actually going to be starting on the pole of the feature as we are approaching less than 5 minutes now. Actually, we are less than 5 minutes. We're almost 22 minutes into this one. We'll have 3 minutes remaining, which means we'll have 2 laps to go here at the Twin Ring Motegi Road Course. And we got to make that distinction here, Ron, because again, this is one of the very few circuits that has an oval configuration as well as a road course. Again, they're both separated out, so you don't even drive on the oval on this course here, which I'm kind of sad about as a oval fan myself. But now Tobias Olsen, 9 spots gained here in this first race of the night, and he is going to be looking at starting in the 3rd spot of tonight's 30-minute feature. And looking throughout the rest of the field, you can kind of see everybody's kind of been back and forth. Nicholas Rasmussen, who was sitting in second at the beginning. Oh, Tobias Olsen just about lost it.
Well held, Tobias.
Oh, most drivers, that's a race ender. That's a tank slapper into the wall, night done. Oh man, he was absolutely close and losing that one and not starting third in the feature, but he also now has some company of Mark Swan, who's hot on his heels here. Again, we got about 2 laps to go here. I think this upcoming lap should be the white flag lap this time if my calculations are correct. But again, I went to a public school, so who knows how good my math skills are in my head. And Leonard Schneibel leading the charge now, over 3 seconds over George Snasnoff. These two are battling for the championship along with Nicholas Rasmussen and Tobias Olsen. Tobias Olsen isn't quite out of it yet. He needs some things to happen for him, which so far they have happened, with Nicholas Rasmussen falling down to 8th. But now he needs George Snasnoff and Leonard Schneibel to start battling and maybe take each other out in order to maybe preserve a potential championship bid. White flag one more time around here in the 25-minute, what do we call this, a feature, or
we'll call it the sprint race?
Okay, 25-minute sprint race here, and Tobias Olsen, he is running out of time, but Mark Swan, he is right on the back bumper, pretty much snipping the exhaust fumes as they go down into turn number 2, or turn 3. And you can just see Mark Swan, he really wants this position badly here. Again, in this order, he'll start currently second outside pole. So Mark Swan, he is right there, right on the exhaust pipe of Tobias Olsen on the final lap here, Ron. And Leonard Schneibel, he is pretty much checked out of this one, but we still got some battles throughout the field.
Yeah, Schneibel, he's pretty much an entirely different zip code compared to everybody else. I was actually taking a look at the live timing screen to see if there's any sort of damage on Grigorenko. Actually, no, my apologies. Grigorenko's teammate, George Sasnoff, we saw him get a little bit of the piece of action involving the spin for Swan and Grosseto earlier on. However, I don't think he's been affected too badly pace-wise. His last time by, he was only a 10.5 off of Leonard Schneibel, but it's still enough for Schneibel just to pull away in this race. I think he's going to take the checker flag in just a couple of moments' time and try and consider himself a championship contender. Won the opening race of the season at Misano, and he's going to do it again here at Motegi.
Leonard Schneibel crosses the line in first here in the 25-minute sprint race. George Snasnoff, he's got some company, but he'll take home second place. Grigorenko third, a good strong finish from Yuri Grigorenko. Tobias Olsen, he'll finish fourth, and that means he'll start in the third spot in our 30-minute feature coming up. Mark Swan in fifth, and Najuz Gedvelez finishes in sixth. He'll start on the pole here coming up. Nicholas Rasmussen trying to make up as many spots as he could, and only gained 1, and he'll finish 7th. Fabio Grosseto in 8th. Andre Duna in 9th. Leonard Bognar, who's still out there on track, he's only gained a couple of spots after his earlier spin in the opening lap, but he'll cross the line in 10th. Pierre-Francois Palouse, he is just further back now, coming into turn 11. And this, I think for sure, okay.
How did he blow his motor up there? I just heard an amazing level of racket as he came across the line. How many motor blowups have we seen so far, Adam? I think that may have been one of the first ones.
I think that is our first one of the year. So, but Pierre-Francois, he's still out there on track. He just crossed the line, and he's 11th. Jeff Lutz crosses the line in 12th. Our only non-finisher here in the sprint race, Thomas Hedlund, Ice Cold Racing 2. So that rounds it out there. Leonard Schneibel with the win in the 25-minute sprint race, and good congratulations to him, but he'll have to start 6th here tonight. Now, we get ready for this main event here, the 30-minute feature race, and we'll look at the lineup here when it's ready. And as everybody will get a chance of getting a warm-up session in. It's only a 3-minute warm-up session, so we'll take a look at the result. Leonard Schneibel wins from George Snasnoff. Yuri Grigorenko third, Tobias Olsen fourth, Mark Swan in fifth, and Najus Gedbeles in sixth. Now remember, that will invert, so now Leonard Schneibel will start sixth, and Najus Gedbeles will start on the pole. Nicholas Rasmussen finished outside of the top six, along with Fabio Grassetto, Andre Duna, Leonard Bognar, Pierre-Francois Pelouche, Jeff Luce, and Thomas Hedlund. So that is the final results from the sprint race here tonight, and we'll get ready here in just a couple of minutes for our 30-minute race. And this is going to be an interesting feature. Again, championship on the line here, Ron. And if you're Nicholas Rasmussen, you're not too happy with how that sprint race went.
Oh, I think if you're Nicholas Rasmussen, you need to be on the revenge tour, considering the point of the season that we find ourselves in. Really, it's just 3 races left. 1 more race meeting after today. 1 race left tonight. 3 races. You can do the math in your head. And at this point in time, he needs to just go for it. A win at this point would do him a lot of favors, but a crushing loss like he just had in that sprint race would hurt him a lot as well. So if you're Nicholas Rasmussen, you're definitely on the revenge tour for this 30-minute feature race, and you do have the time to try and cut your way through the field like a hot knife through butter. Not going to be starting entirely at the back, and as long as he can keep his nose clean, I think we will definitely see this Alcantech NHR by Brain Crow AI car end up at the north end of the field. He's going to face some really stiff opposition, though. You've got Tobias Olsen trying to be on the comeback tour after the penalty that really derailed his chances of winning a championship. He's still in the fight. However, he has to have a perfect close to this season to try and get the job done. Nicholas Rasmussen, meanwhile, we just said it, he needs to be on the revenge tour. Only 2 more races left to go after this one. He is going to be on that pedal as hard as he possibly could, probably bending the sheet pan. I don't think that's a word. Bending the floor pan. There we go. It took me a little bit to figure out what the right saying is. He's going to be bending the floor pan, being as hard on the gas as he possibly can. And he also got to think of his teammate as well, Leonard Schneibel. He wants to have a say in the championship fight, and considering he just won the race we closed out about 3 minutes ago, he is not one that we need to discount either. Whole lot of championship implications in this race. Whole lots of storylines to close out in the final few races of this season. I don't know about you, Adam. I think this race may be one of the most hectic we've seen thus far.
Well, open up the pay window. It's time for the 30-minute feature race here on Apex Racing TV with the ARA Super Formula Lights. Make sure you click that subscribe button and the notification bell to know when we go live, and also hit the like button. Get this broadcast in through the algorithm on YouTube. Let's take a look at our featured lineup here. Najus Gedbeles in the 267 car, part of the ADX Racing Esports team, will be on the pole, along with his teammate Mark Swan in the 212. In row number 2, Tobias Olsen, Yuri Grigorenko. Row 3, George Snasnoff in the 165 and Leonard Schneibel in the 159. Row number 4, Nicholas Rasmussen, the championship points leader in the 171. Alongside him, the 206 of Fabio Grassetto. And row 5, Andre Duna and Leonard Bognar. Row 6, Pierre-Francois Pelouche and Jeff Lutz. And the final starter tonight, Thomas Hedlund of Ice Cold Racing 2 in the 177. So that's a quick look at the starting grid here. And we're going to go green quite quickly here. 5 lights will turn on here. And 5 lights will go out here at Twin Ring Motegi teammates on the front row. Here comes Tobias Olsen. He cuts over, trying to make an early move. Here they come barreling into turn 1. Najus Gedbeles, he's holding on to the race lead with his teammate Mark Swan right behind him. Now Tobias Olsen has Yuri Grigorenko right next to him as they go barreling down into turn number 2 here. And this is going to get interesting. Almost 3 wide entering turn 2, but looks like Leonard Schneibel backs out of the move quickly. Now side by side, who's that down the inside of Leonard Schneibel? That's going to be Fabio Grassetto, George Snasnoff, I would like to say. And now they're almost looking like, again, 3 wide as they go down into turn number 4. And out, so now they can finally make the exit out of the oval here. And this is when it's going to start getting interesting. This is where we saw a lot of the incidents happen in the 25-minute race. still out in front. Ninjuice Gedveles, Mark Swan in second, Tobias Olsen third, Yuri Grigorenko fourth, and Leonard Schneibel has made up one spot and he's moved himself into fifth.
Oh, 3 wide nearly, heading into turn number 9. A contact coming out of the corner. That is Nicholas Rasmussen involved in that. Grosseto possibly as well. I'm trying to see. I believe that was Rasmussen involved in that. George Sazonov involved as well. 2 of the championship contenders taken out early on in this race. Rasmussen has towed. He's entirely out of the picture. George Sazonov is back up and rolling. However, he's 15 seconds off of our leader, Mark Swan, who's still holding it basically by the skin of his teeth. You can see Gedveles and Olsen now going side by side, heading through turns number 13 and 14 now towards the end of the lap. It was the drama that we were expecting, Adam, and the drama we certainly got. Rasmussen has had to tow. The no good, awful, very bad race meeting for the Danish driver has continued in this future race. Not only 1 lap into this 30-minute affair, and Nicholas Rasmussen has had to tow in a spinner involving, that's Pierre-Francois Paulus spinning in dramatic fashion. Heading through turn number 1, he is going to drop down the running order, and he's still going to be in front of George Sazonov, who's dropping back badly. He's had to tow back to the pits. I think he's actually maybe left. No, actually, he has not left the session, but he's had to tow back to pit lane. Drama involving Sazonov and Rasmussen, the 2 drivers involved in the championship fight, and that is going to be a game changer for that Pro Championship battle.
Well, somebody must have put Ice Cold Racing back in the freezer to get themselves formed up, because for Tobias Olsen, this is exactly what he needed. Leonard Schneibel behind him. His championship contenders are out of this one. Tobias Olsen, all he has to do is win, and he goes into next week with a chance at a championship here in the ARA Super Formula Lights. He's currently sitting third, not making up much ground here, and I think we got some replays. As soon as we get through this lap here, we'll go to those replays. We just want to see what happens here. And Rasmussen goes ahead and goes up. He is out of the pit. He does not lose a lap, so he is still in this race. So now it's just got to make up the time. He's 1 minute and 21 seconds back, and for Rasmussen, even if they come and lap him, he could play spoilers here this afternoon. As now 3.5 minutes into this one, some craziness has already happened as all the drivers again fall into turn 1. Now let's take a look at some replays. Here's Nicholas Rasmussen, and he just gets wide a little bit, has started to make the move around the outside, and yep, that's what I figured happened. Just 2 cars competing for the same piece of asphalt, and both of them just making contact, and that's an unfortunate incident there for Nicholas. Now let's take a look at George Sazonov, who he was, look at the car. He has some broken suspension on that for sure. So
I think he got lost as well. A lot of people don't realize that the pit entry for this track is actually before the second to last corner at turn number 13. He didn't realize that and then tried to go on to the pits on that start-finish straightaway and just had to tow. So it was a problem that we were possibly going to bring up towards the start of this broadcast, considering the very weird pit entry that we have. But look at this, Tobias Olsen flipping sides like he's flipping burgers, heading into turn number 10. Tobias Olsen, it looked like he was going to go for the outside, then the inside, then the outside, then the inside, then he tried to go around the outside. It didn't work for him there, heading into turn number 10. Now he's got to switch to the inside line, heading into the downhill right-hander of turn number 11. They're going to be side by side. This is a battle for P2, and they're making contact as well. That was definitely contact between Gedveles and Olsen. Thankfully, they get away with it. However, they're starting to lose time, with Swan starting to pull out a 1.6 second gap over Tobias Olsen and P2. But look at Gedveles and Grigorenko. They may start to battle. Bognar just had a brief little connection issue. Actually, he may be just coming down pit lane, possibly some damage on the Swede's car. Yeah, you can see him actually coming into the pits. So the AM driver coming in and Paulus coming out.
Yeah, Leonard Bognar, you can kind of see that wing is kind of crooked a little bit, so definitely make contact with somebody somewhere. And he will be out of this one in that 8th spot. A good run from Leonard Bognar, and let's take a look and see if we can find out what happened here. Actually, we're going to take a look at Tobias Olsen's move on Najus Gedvelez makes that inside move into turn 11. Again, they're going 235 kilometers per hour. There's the contact. And again, Tobias Olsen, he was not going to give up there. He wanted that second spot, so he has a chance at winning this one. He knows now what the situation is. And now we are going to look for Leonard Bognar's incident, see if we can figure out what has happened to him. But now Leonard Schneibel, let's see here. What has happened to Bognar? He is in that green, tan, and brown car, the 252 car. You can just see he's getting past there, gets a little wide. Oh my, somebody else went off. Lutz went off as well. Head on into the wall. Just got...
It was... All three of them ran wide hang through turn number 8, and they were all kinds of squirrely on the exit grass. But I think this is a few moments later, heading through turn I believe that is turn number 5 that he just went through there. So that's not... I don't think we've been able to find exactly what happened
Did he have a drive
Bognar to send him down pit lane. Ooh, that is a very good question. That could be that wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility with the off-track moments he's had, and maybe a little bit of contact with some hard close quarters battling at the very beginning of this race. I wouldn't rule that out in the slightest.
Well, we'll have to figure out exactly what happened after the race here. But right now, Mark Swan leading from Tobias Olsen by 1.8 seconds, and that gap is starting to close just a little bit here as we are now almost 8 minutes into this one. 5 laps completed, or excuse me, 5 laps into this race, I should say. And Tobias Olsen, again, he is counting his lucky stars here because he may be able to make up the gap a little bit heading into the final race next week and has a shot at a championship title here. Mark Swan, though, has not won a feature race here at ARA Super Formula Lights, and he's looking to get his first one today. He would be an AM driver winning this, winning a feature, and that would be a story within itself, especially with the way that that championship has been going. Yuri Grigorenko right on the back bumper of Najus Gedvelez, as now he decides not to make the move happen into turn 11 as we head back into the infield of the oval. And Grigorenko, he is going to have to really put on a drive here. Again, a good run from Yuri Grigorenko. Just remember, back in the early parts of the season, he was maybe cracking into the top 10. Now he's cracking, now he's in the top 5. So some good progress shown from the Russian driver of Yuri Grigorenko, and we hope he can continue to move up the grid here. Last week, definitely had an upsetting moment as he was involved in an incident. I think he was also running in the top 5, if I remember correctly, from last week, and he is going to try and get it done today. But he's got some company of Leonard Schneibel, a championship contender who is watching Tobias Olsen running in the second spot and tracking down Mark Swan here, now 1.6 seconds in the gap between first and second place. And you can kind of just see it's very close. Leonard Schneibel right there. He's going to go down the inside. He doesn't make the move. He has to get out of it. And Yuri Grigorenko, good defensive move there, but Leonard Schneibel is not done yet. This time, can he look down the inside? Yes, he can, but he can't make the move stick, and he has to just tuck right back in, back behind Yuri Grigorenko. You also got to keep an eye out for Fabio Grassetto, who is in 6th, who is watching all of this unfold here. And Grassetto, he is looking potentially at capitalizing on any mistake any driver has in front of him.
Oh, he certainly is, but at this point, I feel like it's too little too late when it comes to that AM championship fight. But side by side again, hang through turn number 11. Schneibel and Grigorenko are battling tooth and nail, nearly making contact, hang through 12 and 13. And look at Grassetto right behind Grassetto. He's really out of it when it comes to the AM championship fight. But right now, these two are battling so hard that I wouldn't be too shocked if he gets by the both of them as Grigorenko and Schneibel go off the track and making contact. packed. Heading through turn number 1, I was just gonna say that those two cars were probably gonna end off the racetrack in a cloud of steam and carbon fiber bits, and that's exactly what happened. Drama with Schneibel and Grigorenko. Grigorenko shedding some bodywork coming out of turn number 2, and another championship contender running into some issues. And as much as we were thinking he's on the back foot massively, he needs a miracle to happen, considering that all three of the other drivers contending for that pro championship have run into problems so far this race. Tobias Olsen has a shot to win it, and look at that contact heading through turn number 1 and 2. A misjudged braking zone leads to Schneibel losing it, heading through turn number 1, and Grigorenko just had nowhere to go.
Let's take a look at this move. You can see Leonard Schneibel, he is on that inside line. And I'm just going to see, it looks like Grigorenko, he cuts in just a little bit earlier than what Schneibel did. And that just is what caused the contact, because Schneibel just loses the rear end of the car because he threw it into the turn. And luckily, because of that, and I don't know if this was sportsmanship or what, but Grigorenko letting Schneibel go by here. And let's take a look at this move one more time. On board with Leonard Schneibel here as they go into turn number 1. I would say, I think Yuri Grigorenko cut in just a little early, trying to get to the apex and make that corner work out. And Leonard Schneibel reacted to the move and just lost the car here. And Leonard Schneibel into the pits along with Yuri Grigorenko. Did they have a meatball flag potentially? That would not be surprising, considering that really any slight damage to the bodywork of the car, and we saw in Leonard Schneibel's case, the back part of the carbon fiber flew off, and of course iRacing gave it back to him. Yep, so just a quick repair there, and away they go back out on track. And Yuri Grigorenko actually passed Leonard Schneibel in the pits.
And it should be noted as well, they did not have a meatball flag to serve. They just came down the pits in their own regard. And considering the collision that those two had, I can imagine after that, those two cars were driving like absolute hoopty-rod. So it does make sense as to why they came down pit lane. And really, in the midst of all of that, Schneibel, I wouldn't say he's come out smelling like a rose, but he's not coming out of this smelling like a pile of cow manure either, because you've got Rasmussen and Sazonov in P9 and P10. Sazonov's actually one lap down, and Rasmussen's not very far up the road, so those two aren't doing good. So even with that incident with Schneibel, he is still smelling okay out of the three drivers that are up towards the front of the championship fight. But I think the man that is coming out of this race, we hope, we assume, depending on what kind of twists and turns this race takes between now and the checkered flag, we haven't even hit the halfway mark, and we've already had like 30 minutes of drama packed into just 13 minutes. But Tobias Olsen at this point, we mention it, Tobias Olsen came into this race looking to have a miracle happen. He needed to have some very good results. I'm sure he's trying to look at the win, both Mark Swan still pulling away in that gap. It hasn't really gone up, however, it's not going down either. Those two are remaining about that 1.5 second margin between the two of them ever since this race began and really start to settle into a groove. At this point in time, though, Tobias Olsen is probably coming out of this race with what could be the best result of the Pro Championship contenders. Man, this is the drama that we usually expect in this series just continues to ramp up. And you could, I think if us from the future told us before this broadcast, Adam, that Tobias Olsen was going to come out of this race with a really good shot of still winning the championship after a race ban and a qualifying ban for this round, I don't think we would have believed our future selves.
No, we wouldn't have, because like you said, it's a crazy thought to think about. You don't think about these things because you just expect the Alcantech by Brainco AI team to be just absolutely solid as they've been throughout the entire season this year. But obviously, just like in all racing series, the racing gods give it, then the racing gods take it away here because Tobias Olsen is in a lucky position here. He gets a little bit wide so that he's gonna lose he doesn't even lose time at all. He actually gained a little bit of time to Mark Swan here as we approach lap 10. And Mark Swan, he's got to find some additional pace there right now, the best lap times for Mark Swan, a 142.018. That's his quickest. Tobias Olsen did a 142.1. But considering that these two are very, very close in speed, Tobias Olsen just has the edge. Now, looking at best lap times, look at Najuz Gedvelez, a 141.999. What a lap time from the 267. Did we ever figure out what flag that was? That he has where he's from, Ron?
Ooh, that is a very good question. Let me actually look it up. I've just looked it up. I had a feeling it was Lithuania, and yes, it is Lithuania. So, Nojus Jedvilas from Lithuania currently has the fastest lap of the race right now. He's putting on a very good show. ADX Racing Esports looking to try. I think if we had an AM Teams Championship fight, ADX Racing Esports would be absolutely dominating that, because Mark Swan and Nojus Jedvilas running quite strongly in this race, running P1 and P3. With Mark Swan, if he holds on to this win, which, I mean, did he actually? No, he didn't win in the sprint earlier. I was just harkening my mind back. With all the drama we've had thus far, I couldn't even remember who won that race earlier. It was, of course, Leonard Schneibel that took the checkered flag in that one. But even with him not taking the checkered flag in that sprint race earlier, if he wins this feature, I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, we'll touch back on this for the finale in 1 week's time here on Apex Racing TV. I believe Mark Swan would be able to clinch the deal and win the championship in the AM category with one race meeting to spare, and that would be a very fitting result for a very dominant season from the Dutchman. But he's still going to have some challenges between now and the end of this race. But if he holds the pace that he has currently, looks like it's going to be a very good result for Swan. And the second win in one of these races for an overall victory, not just an AM victory, an overall victory, which would be a shocker.
Well, now we are over halfway finished with this one. And right now, let's see here. And, oh, somebody went off. That was Grassetto, who went wide here, and he's actually very, very slow coming down the straight here. Let's take a look and see what has happened to Fabio Grassetto. Comes into the corner. Oh, just dips that tire into the grass, and around he goes. Just has a little bit of trouble getting it back underway, but he's able to get back under power, and now he's sitting fifth. Well, here's an interesting statistic here, Ron. Look at the top 5. There's only one pro driver in the top 5 currently. All the other drivers are AM drivers. That is an insane looking timing screen here at ARA Super Formula Lights, because really this is the first time we have seen this all season long.
Yeah, it really is wild, and I think the main reason why that's the case, of course, not discrediting the performance that these AM drivers are putting on, which is very solid. Swan putting on a fantastic drive. Gedvel is putting on a fantastic drive. Duna, we haven't really talked about him. Duna, the driver from, I believe, Romania, if I'm testing my flag knowledge there, the driver from Romania putting on a very good show as well, currently in P4, and Fabio Grassetto as well, the Italian, even after that spin, running solidly inside the top 5. But looking through the pro drivers that are running in this race, all of them have championship aspirations in some form or another. Thomas Hedlund, he's not really in when it comes to the Drivers' Championship fight. However, the Ice Cold Racing driver definitely staying out there on the circuit to try and seal the deal with Ice Cold. Actually, no, I believe he's running for Ice Cold Racing too, so it doesn't even matter for the main Ice Cold Racing Team Championship. But getting some seat time, even though he disconnected after the crash he had at the end of lap 1 at that sprint race. I guess the seat time thing that I just said can really be thrown out the window. But then you look at Tobias Olsen, Leonard Schneibel, Nicholas Rasmussen, and George Sasanoff. They are all drivers contending for that championship. Tobias Olsen, he was a driver that at one point in time we thought was his. We thought it was his championship to lose. It seemed like he was going to try and lose it. However, with some misfortune befalling his competitors, he has put on a pretty good comeback. Probably not going to win this race, as Olsen beginning to drop back of this man, Mark Swan, now about 2 seconds separating them. But he's doing better than Schneibel, who's running in 7th, Rasmussen, who's running in 9th, and Sasanoff, who's in P10, 1 lap down. This is a pretty good result from Tobias Olsen. Even if it may not be the victory, it's still going to be a very well-earned result, and a result that he frankly needed to get from this race.
Well, let's think about the possibilities now, Ron, as we are now less than 10 minutes away from the checkered flag here at Twin Ring Motegi, or Mobility Resort Motegi, just depending on however you like to call this. We like to call it Twin Ring Motegi. That's what it's generally called. If you actually search Google for Mobility Resort Motegi, it actually just takes you to the actual resort on the property, but it doesn't take you to the racetrack. You actually have to look up Twin Ring Motegi to get any track information or anything, and that includes on Wikipedia. So that obviously hasn't been updated. So, but the possibilities going into the final race is that we're going to have a 4-car championship battle next Thursday at our final race here at ARA Super Formula Lights, and that is that's at Zandvoort, if I remember correctly. And Zandvoort in a championship battle, let's go. Leonard Schneibel currently trying to chase down Yuri Grigorenko, trying to just make up all the positions he lost and trying to salvage a good points day for him. So, and then Nicholas Ravnison, he's now a minute 28 behind the pack, and an unfortunate day for the championship leader. Will we have a new championship leader after this? I don't think so, because it was Ravnison in front with George Snasnoff in second, and third with Leonard Schneibel. Fourth, on 41 points behind, was Tobias Olsen, who will cut into that gap. Leonard Schneibel sticking in the slipstream of Yuri Grigorenko, but hasn't made an attempt at a move just yet. But I wouldn't imagine that it's not coming. It's going to be probably down this really long straight between turns 10 and 11.
Actually, talking about the championship fight involving one of these drivers, that being Leonard Schneibel, I believe, just doing the quick maths in my head, he would probably take the championship lead leaving this round. He was only 12 points back of Nicholas Rasmussen entering these two races, but after the victory in the sprint and a P7 result in this feature, which could be a P6 in the not too distant future, that may be Leonard Schneibel's championship lead heading into the final race of the season, as Schneibel trying to get the move done heading into turn number 1 and 2, hoping not to have a repeat of these two drivers who came to blows earlier on. They definitely kept it a bit closer this time by, with again Grigorenko doing that defensive line and moving over a teeny tiny bit in the braking zone, cutting the line off from Schneibel. They're still close, heading through 3 and 4 right now. We may see a move heading into 5 in just a couple of moments. Simon, look at that. Schneibel with a decent exit. He's going to be enjoying that drift, enjoying that slipstream, and trying to get the move done down the inside, heading into turn number 5. Will he make the move stick? Yes, he will. He clears them on corner exit. So Leonard Schneibel now going to move his way up into P6, unless Yuri Grigorenko has anything to say about this. This is not only a battle when it comes to P6 in this race, it's a battle for the team championship as well, as a Dunarev Motorsports driver is fighting back, getting the move done through 7 and 8 right now, making contact, huge contact, heading out of turn number 8, heading into 9 right now. That was a near disaster involving the two drivers that came to blows, heading into turn 1 not terribly long ago. Adam, clearly no love lost between the two of them, as side by side, heading through turn number 10, and it looks like Schneibel is finally going to shake off the challenge from Yuri Grigorenko, but those two battling tooth and nail. No love lost after that incident earlier. I'm sure some heated words are going to be exchanged, not only after this race, but in this race as well. Grigorenko now getting the move done to get back in front of Leonard Schneibel. Schneibel, I mean, he's still running in a good spot considering that Rasmussen is running well farther down in P9. But he still wants to get that P6. It's not for a reverse grid pole or anything, this being the last race of the evening, but he still wants to get one more spot. It will be a matter of just a few points, but considering this championship fight, a matter of a few points can make or break your championship hopes. As side by side, heading through turns number 1 and 2, they're going to be side by side again on corner exit, with Grigorenko not yielding at all in this Schneibel fight. They're going to be side by side, heading through 3 and 4, with Grigorenko looking to get the move done.
What has happened to Tobias Olsen? He was 1.5 seconds from Mark Swan, and now he's 5.6 seconds back here. I'm looking at lap times. I mean, Tobias Olsen is the quickest car out on track, a 141.8. Currently the fastest lap time out of all the drivers. But Mark Swan has just been putting in consistent lap after lap after lap after lap, and he's able to grow that gap we're going to get him to victory lane tonight if that keeps up here, as we are 4.5 minutes away from the checkered flag. So about 3 laps remaining here at Twin Ring Motegi, and we're still keeping our eyes on this battle for 6. Let's take a look here and see if this is what happened to Tobias Olsen on the replay. And yeah, definitely assisted.
Yeah, I think he did lose a tiny bit of time there. Not too sure how he lost the rest of it, though. Either way, Olsen, he probably didn't have a good chance to win it anyways, and with 4 minutes left to go and a 5.5-second gap, that really seals it for Mark Swan when it comes to both this race and the AM Championship. But Olsen, a small little mistake. Thankfully, it isn't as dear as the other championship contenders' mistakes so far in this race, as a Schneibel and Grigorenko fight has still not cooled off.
No, it has not. Ever since they made contact with each other earlier and came into the pits together. Actually, it was really funny to watch these two battle it out, because Leonard Schneibel was in front of Yuri Grigorenko into the pits. Out of the pits, Yuri Grigorenko with just that slightly faster pit stop. And that's why we are in this battle we are in right now. Yuri Grigorenko defending hard as they are currently going down into turn number 6. No, number 4. I'm getting a little far ahead of myself. I keep forgetting that turn 1, they just count as 1 turn, not 2. And Leonard Schneibel now into the 6th spot, but Yuri Grigorenko bringing it back around the outside. He's going to try and make the move stick. He's on the inside this time, and on the outside on the chicane part through 7 and 8. Now down in the turn 9. Leonard Schneibel having to maybe pull off a defensive move. No, he doesn't. He allows that inside line for Yuri Grigorenko, but a good run for Leonard Schneibel as they go down into turn number 10 here, and this is where it's going to get interesting. He's on the inside line. He has the preferred line onto the longest straight on the course, and now, but Yuri Grigorenko, he's going to have that slipstream. He pulls down to the inside. Can they get up to that 235 kilometer per hour, excuse me, down the front straight, down this, I would call the back straight? Doesn't get quite up to that speed here, but Leonard Schneibel just sticking around. These two trading blows after blows here as we approach now to 1. Probably this should be the white flag if I had to guess, or we got 2 laps to go after they cross the line here. Looks like 2 laps to go. I don't see the white flag out, so 2 laps remaining here, and this battle is just ongoing. What a race. Yuri Grigorenko gets pushed out into the grass, saves it, but he's still not backing down. They're still side by side as they go into turn number 2. Wow. What
it was. Yeah, it wasn't a pass in the grass, but it was pretty close. Now, Schneibel may try and pull off a pass in the grass back on Grigorenko. The fact he went off the track in the manner he did and was still able to get the move done heading into 3 and 4 is truly unbelievable. These two are putting on a fantastic fight for us in this feature from the Apex Racing Academy Super Formula Light season. It's the action we've expected all season long. It's the action we've gotten all season long, and this race has certainly lived up to those expectations. Battling for P6 as if it's a battle for the win, and really for Schneibel, it's a battle for the championship contention as well. Nearly side by side heading into turn number 9. Those drivers, they traded paint, they were trading blows, and with how hard they're racing, they may trade paint yet again. Mark Swan is on the final lap of the race. He has a 5.8-second gap over Tobias Olsen in P2, so that's fairly game, set, match. We'll see if Olsen has some sort of mistake and possibly loses out on P2 to Gedfelis. But right now, our attention is back on this Grigorenko and Schneibel fight. They're going to be side by side down that start-finish straightaway, down that long back straightaway, my apologies, heading into turn number 11. Who is going to get that move done? It looks like Schneibel's going to be sticking it around the outside, heading through the kinks of 12 and 13, now into 14 now, and Schneibel's going to get that move done finally. I think Schneibel at this point is tired of seeing the Russian of Yuri Grigorenko either in his mirrors or side by side with him, but he still has to see it now, side by side, heading through turns number 1 and 2. Grigorenko trying to squeeze Schneibel onto that inside line, but they're going to be side by side heading through 1 and 2 down this slow little flat out blast between 2 and 3. This fight has not cooled off in the slightest. It has been boiling hot for the past 10 minutes at this point. It has been fantastic to watch, but I think one of these two just wants to get it done with, because as long as these battles continue to heat up, it's going to build up that tension and eventually lead into some sort of accident.
Well, you got to remember, some of these corners, it's preferred to be on the outside line. That way you can get a better run out of the corner, especially on the longer straights of the circuit. You want to be on that outside line because you want to use that momentum to get going here. As we're seeing Leonard Schneibel here, he's holding on to that, I would say, probably the optimal line through this track, and he's been able to maintain being in front of Yuri Grigorenko. Mark Swan, he'll win here tonight at ARA Super Formula Lights. He gets his first win of the season. Tobias Olsen in second. A great day for Ice Cold Racing. Oh, and somebody has gone around. That's Fabio Grosseto. He has spun it around in the final corner. And Najus Gedbeles, he'll take third. Andre Duna fourth. Fabio Grosseto fifth. Now the battle still continuing on for this sixth spot. Leonard Schneibel, he defended well down the back straight into the final few corners here tonight at ARA Super Formula Lights. Leonard Schneibel has had to battle it out, and he'll take home sixth place here. Good recovery drive after some earlier incidents. Yuri Grigorenko, he'll be disappointed with the seventh. He lost 3 spots in this feature. Jeff Lutz will come home to 8th as there's nobody around him. He has a 15-second gap to Ravnuson. He just needs to bring her home in that 8th spot. Nicholas Ravnuson, the points leader, will no longer be the points leader after tonight. He'll finish in the 9th spot. And of course, George Snasnoff finishing in 10th. Let's see what happened to Fabio Grosseto here in the final corner. He tries to make a move. He's side by side, gets over the curb, and he just tried to dive it in there. A little bit too hard, went for a spin. Luckily did not take Andre Duna out, and will finish in the 5th spot. He did gain 3 spots as well. Andre Duna, 5 spots gained from the driver in the 210 car. And what a good result from them. But Tobias Olsen gained a total of 9 spots here tonight, and he will be very, very happy. He's able to stay in the championship hunt headed into next week. Well, let's take a look here at the potentially final running order as soon as it's available. We'll also have some interviews with some drivers, and we'll hopefully get them in the waiting area waiting for us to pull them in here. So we'll just keep an eye out for them. Well, Ron, Mark Swan, he finally gets it done.
Yes, he did. You can see the results from Heat 1 earlier on, but it's the A final, the final race from the evening, the feature race, and Mark Swan gets it done. The ADX Racing esports driver in that 212 car put on a clinic on the field. If he didn't have some drama during that first Heat race, he probably would have ended up going for the double, which I believe would have been one of the first drivers to do that in the AM category in an Apex Racing Academy series. Fantastic stuff from the AM, and with the results that he's accrued throughout this season, and especially tonight, I believe that he has pretty much entirely sealed the deal when it comes to that AM championship fight. He's going to win this race. Tobias Olsen with a very good recovery drive, and the results that he needed. Got banned last time out, didn't even turn a lap at Mugello 1 week ago, serves a qualifying ban today, and he still escapes that final race with a P2 result. Fantastic stuff from the Swede, really saving his chances at winning the championship this season. Nojus Jedvalis, the driver from Lithuania, is going to round out your podium in 3rd. That's going to be Andre Duna, the driver from Romania for Dynamo Esports. He's going to be finishing this race in 4th. Fabio Grosseto, the Italian for Alcantech NHR by Nyman Racing, he's going to end up in P5. Leonard Schneibel in 6th, Yuri Grigorenko in P7, Jeff Lutz in P8, and then we've got 2 of the drivers that were stung the most at this track. Nicholas Rasmussen entered as a championship leader. I don't think there's a hope in hell he leaves this race with the championship lead. He's going to finish that 2nd race in 9th with another championship contender in the form of George Sassanov, the Russian for Didorev Motorsports, going to be rounding out your top 10. That's going to be Pierre-Francois Paulus in P number 11, Leonard Bognar in 12th, who never picked up some sort of damage. However, he eventually retired from the race only 4 laps in. That's going to be Thomas Hedlund, the final of the 13 cars classified in this race, despite never taking the start in the second race this evening. And so those are the results from this feature race from Twin Ring Motegi for the second to last round of the Apex Racing Academy Super Formula Light Series. And we haven't gotten confirmation yet. We definitely will before the start of next week's broadcast at Zandvoort in 1 week's time here on Apex Racing TV. But all credit where credit's due to Mark Swan. He entered this race with, it was about a 39-point gap in the championship, unless I'm very much mistaken. Leaves it with a bigger margin. I'm not going to say entirely, but I'm about 99.98% sure that Mark Swan has sealed the deal in the AM Championship. Fantastic stuff from the Dutchman, who's a stalwart in Apex Racing Academy series and taking home the AM Championship from this season. So Adam, as we wait for some drivers to kind of join the interview waiting area if they want to have a chat with us after this broadcast, I want to ask you this. Who do you think, taking both races into consideration, and you can feel free to ask me this right back, who do you think is your driver of the day for Motegi?
Oh, it's got to be Tobias Olsen. What a recovery drive after the qualifying ban. Gained 8 spots in the first race, in the sprint race, and then he gained another spot, taking second. So a total of 9 spots here tonight, and what an incredible drive by him. I mean, a close runner-up would have been Andre Duna as well. Andre Duna gained 5 spots in that sprint race and just drove a fantastic race to get into the top 5. I would say Mark Swan, but Mark Swan's got a championship, and I thought Tobias Olsen just had good pace today and a good recovery drive, especially after everything that has gone on for the last 2 weeks. So he'll be happy with that. If Mark Swan does also come in a runner-up spot as well. So it's a really, that's why we don't do driver of the day. I hate being asked this question because there was some very good storylines, but Mark Swan, Tobias Olsen both definitely deserve honors for what they have accomplished here tonight, and they will be very, very happy with themselves heading into the final race week of the ARA Super Formula Light season number 1 at Zandvoort, which I think we're going to be in for quite a show. Who was your driver of the day?
Well, that's a very good question. Yeah, a lot of drivers could be consideration for that. You brought up a very good point, Adam, and I think it was a little bit of a loaded question from me, so I apologize for that. Whole lot of drivers that could be up for consideration. Honestly, I think it's got to be Mark Swan. He put on a very good drive, and I think if the driver we may be able to have a chat with didn't have some drama in that second race, it probably would have been Leonard Schneibel, because he put on a good first race. Sadly, things didn't go as he planned in the second, but still had a pretty good evening, and will probably leave this round with the championship lead. And speaking of the man himself, Adam, would you like to have a chat with Leonard Schneibel?
Of course, I would love to chat with him, especially after that battle with Yuri Grigorenko. So let's bring him in here. And Leonard, check, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. Well, not the race you were looking for tonight. Definitely kind of a tale of negative stories coming out of tonight. Talk about your sprint race, and then we'll talk about the feature in a moment.
So sprint race was really good. I mean, I got a bit lucky with the unfolding chaos around me, with Nick unfortunately spinning ahead of me, and then Mark losing his tires, and that was just fortunate. I mean, I definitely had the pace to be up there, but all by my own, I don't know if I could have been faster, or much faster than what I was. Yeah, at the end, decent race. It was just unlucky for the team championship that Nick spun. Yeah, bit negative, but a win is a win.
A win is a win. Yep. You guys lined yourselves up second and third in qualifying, so you were in very good positions going into the sprint race. And have you talked with Nicholas at all? Have you found out what kind of went on with him in that sprint race?
No, it was just a mistake. I mean, we all do mistakes. I'm pretty sure he learned from that, and we keep on going. I mean, we got one race to go. We're leading the team championship, and I think we're leading the drivers' championship as well. So we just keep going and forget about it, or rather learn from it and take the best from it, despite the disappointing finish at the end.
Talk about the feature race a little bit. You were definitely down in that feature race. You finishing 6th, so right where you started after winning the sprint race. Talk about that battle with Yuri a little bit, because it just seemed like you two were just going tit for tat for the entire race, even with your incident earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I try to get by him as soon as possible, because I was certain that I was faster than him. So I just tried it basically everywhere. I got pushed off the track a bit, and there were some actions that were from my end. Well, I think those actions weren't okay, but then I messed up on my own. That's just how things go. We agreed on not protesting each other for those incidents, because it's just racing. I mean, he did some things I could protest. I did a thing he could protest. So we agreed on not giving each other penalties. So yeah, I mean, it's hard racing. At the end, we raced fair and square for the last like 10 laps. When I pushed him off track, I let him by, and I just wanted to beat him completely fair, and that if I couldn't get by him at the end, then I would have been P7. That's okay for me. I mean, I messed up in the middle of the race, so I need to take what I get for it.
Talk about what happened in the pits, because you entered the pits in front of Yuri Grigorenko. Was it just a slow pit stop, or did Yuri just have a better pit stop?
No, I just forgot to uncheck the refuel. So I unchecked the auto refuel where it sets the fuel level, but not the begin refueling box. So I refueled like 1.5 liters, and that was basically the reason why I left the pit lane behind him.
Well, it was an exciting battle to watch. We got to watch it pretty much in the last 10 laps there, and it was very awesome to see you two just battling it out, and very slight contact, a little bit of argy-bargy, but as you said, just hard racing.
Yeah, I mean, hats off to him at the end. Like, being taken out by the same guy you're racing at the end is not easy, but I completely respect that he was fair as well at the end, and I think that shows, despite that we're all making mistakes, we're a great bunch of guys and respect each other off and on track.
Well, good job tonight, and we'll see you next week for the final round here at the ARA Super Formula Light Series.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leonard, and you have a good night, and we'll see you later. Leonard Schneibel, 6th place tonight and the championship lead as we head in to the final round at Zandvoort. Ron, I guess I'll ask you this. Final thoughts of this penultimate round?
Well, I think my final thoughts really depend on what kind of race we're talking about in terms of what driver we're talking about. Our congratulations go out to Mark Swan, who probably locked up the AM Championship with the results tonight. But our commiserations really go out to all of the pro drivers, aside from Tobias Olsen. It takes a really good driver to go out and dominate a series. It takes an entirely different driver to try and come back from the brink of absolute disaster. And he's had to do that over the past few rounds. Well, he's had to do that today. That's all he's had to do. Had the race banned for the last round at Motegi just 1 week, Mugello 1 week ago. And then he just came back from the brink of absolute catastrophe for him. We were thinking, okay, if he doesn't have a good result today, he's probably out of the championship fight. And as he had an okay result, all the other pro drivers around him folded. I think coming into the final race of the season at Zandvoort, we could very well have we're definitely going to have a 4-car championship fight. We could have the front 4 in the pro championship covered by a matter of like 15 points. It is going to be a fantastic show at Zandvoort in only 1 week's time here on Apex Racing TV, which gives the people tuning into the stream, I think, even more of a reason to subscribe, because that race at Zandvoort, the 2 races that we'll have on deck for you, are going to be intense. Zandvoort puts on a very good show. That track is fun to drive in all sorts of cars that I'm sure the drivers here in the Apex Racing Academy Super Formula Light Series are really going to enjoy, capping this season off, the first ever season of this brand new series in style at Zandvoort. We're going to be crowning some champions with both drivers and teams, and that is going to be a whole lot of fun in just 1 week's time here on Apex Racing TV. It's been a fun season, Adam, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun to close this season off at Zandvoort. Just 1 week's time. I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it as well. And of course, thank you, Ron, for your work today, as well as our producer, Josh. And of course, all you viewers at home, this is not possible without you supporting the league here at Apex Racing Academy and on Apex Racing TV. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you know exactly when we go live. We have several other series happening throughout the race week, and you can watch all of those live here on YouTube. Well, that is going to wrap it up for us here tonight. For everybody here at Apex Racing TV, I'm Adam Thompson. Good night, and we'll see you next week at Zandvoort.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.